And everyone talks about trying to, onboard the next billion users to crypto. You're not going to do that without institutions and large businesses being able to also get onboarded. And when they have to talk to their finance team and say, well, I'm an ambitious payments product manager, and I want to, start accepting stable coins. Well, who's the accountant who's going to have to do all that manual work? No one's thinking about normalizing the blockchain for businesses.
Welcome to the ATX DAO podcast, the hub for exploring the forefront of blockchain technology and Austin's Web3 community. Your hosts, Nick, Mason, Luke, and Ash, connect you with innovators within ATX DAO and beyond as we venture into the world of decentralized technology. So crack open a beer and join us for a front row seat to learn about the innovations and trends shaping our digital future. This is the ATX DAO podcast.
I'm very excited to have you today. For our listeners, this is a very special guest. This is one of our first official partners of the ATX DAO Partner Network. So we are really excited to have Entendre Finance and represented today by Kareem Khattab. And we're just excited to talk about the Partner Network, but also mostly to hear about you and your backstory. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ash.
Well, cool. Well, I guess we'll just kind of start with a little bit of background for our listeners about the Partner Network. So this is something new that we've been talking about for a while. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably know that ATX DAO does some really cool things. And we've got about 230, maybe 250 minted NFT members that are part of our community. And those are all professionals and a lot of founders, a lot of builders themselves, but really individuals. And so over time, other brands and companies have come to us and said, hey, we want to be part of ATX DAO. So we really created the Partner Network as a way to welcome more people and more awesome brands and representation into the ATX DAO family. And so that's what the ATX DAO Partner Network is. So it's an annual membership where we are going to be hosting these in-person partner showcases that are kind of town hall style and really intended for brands like yours, Kareem, that will be able to talk about all the cool things that they're building, just able to really promote each other and share all the cool things that we're doing and really try to draw attention to the Web3 space, specifically in Austin, but really just across the board. So that's just a little bit of background on the ATX DAO Partner Network. So commercials over. Let's talk about Kareem.
Yeah.
So Kareem, if you want to just give us some background, like who are you as a person before we get into all the Web3 stuff, like tell us who you are and what your journey's been like so far and really how you got into Web3. I'm super interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick intro to the audience. I'm the founder of Entendre Finance. We are AI accounting for Web3 teams. I've been in crypto since 2017, give or take. My background primarily was software engineering, and I started my career in fintech at a large Fortune 500 ERP company that you may have heard called Workday. And specifically, and why this kind of helped me jump into crypto was I worked on the cash management, banking, and settlements team. So you can imagine I had a very under the hood look of the fiat system and how fragmented, slow, and archaic a lot of this infrastructure powering the world's largest companies was. And obviously, blockchain was that kind of next iteration of financial technology in the world. What started off as physical ledgers on spreadsheets to on-premise solutions, which is obviously, cloud-based, data centers or servers in your basement or in your company's, data room or data server room managed by internal IT people, to then cloud-based solutions. To me, that connection from cloud-based solutions to decentralized solutions on the blockchain was what got me super excited. So obviously I did personal investing in crypto. I can tell you now, obviously I was very young and bag held too long or sold too early. So the timing never worked out. So I figured I would stick to, actually just providing value in the form of helping build companies. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I obviously moved on to more ambitious uh, goals after working in ERP software. I joined, WeWork at the peak valuation through the SoftBank takeover as the payments product manager, trying to automate our quote to cash processes. Obviously, we can get into that more, but this further highlighted the importance of crypto and what the speed and the global reach that it has what it can provide for companies. And obviously after that, I was most recently at another startup of similar scale and growth. And then after that, I decided it was time to start Entendre Finance. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask a question about
Yeah.
how degen was WeWork really? Because it's like it seemed like you're doing something that's very like framework based, right? You have a modal to operate. It requires structures. It requires like logical processes. But it seemed like the lore around it was like, bro, it was insane. It was like Facebook, like year one.
Yeah. So I'll say this. It's a great case study of what would happen to any company, fiat or crypto, if you don't have good financial hygiene. And that's actually even WeWork was really was a real estate company first and foremost, which already has very intense cash management and lending requirements, right? To WeWork, all of these real estate properties were actually belonged to the company, but in a form of many subsidiaries with very special lending or loan agreements with very specific leases that applied to each individual property. And that obviously meant that if it had its own cash management hurdles and challenges. And so when you're trying to accept a payment from a customer who has offices in 5 buildings, they just want to make one payment. But actually, we then have to figure out how to reconcile that one payment to 5 different agreements for their rent. And then we also had to make sure that we're funding all of these properties is bank accounts for operational expenses. And enterprise customers didn't care that they had 100 offices. They're just going to send you one wire to the one bank account they have on file. And so you can slowly see how it started to unwind on the cash management alone. But then growing extremely fast, and why this applies to crypto first and foremost, is because we're then trying to operate in markets that don't even have traditional payment rails, right? When we're trying to open offices in Russia or offices in Vietnam, and the payments team is stuck trying to figure out a way to at least collect payment at the time that these buildings open, it's a very difficult problem when you don't have the blockchain, you don't have an internet connection, and someone can just pay you from their wallet, right? And so that was really what kind of gave me it opened my third eye, and kind of just I got red pilled with crypto. I was like, this seems like a very no brainer thing. But in corporate speak, in the CFO suite, in the way that traditional finance teams are structured, if you brought up crypto, you were not a serious person, right? So this is back in 2017 to 2020. And it's funny enough, I moved on from WeWork to join a similarly structured company called Cloud Kitchens that was, again, primarily a real estate business, but was operating and developing ghost kitchens and trying to optimize delivery. And again, huge financial payment challenges that come with that because, you got to pay the courier, and restaurants' cash flows are very, how do I say, the margins are slim, and the cash movement is slow, and they're basically living month to month. And how can we optimize not just the sourcing of the ingredients and the actual cooking of the food and the delivery of the food, but how can we actually make the back office of restaurants and the payment collection and revenue of restaurants efficient as well? And this all ultimately led to, well, if there was a very easy way for companies to accept crypto and put crypto on their balance sheet, then maybe eventually it won't be a 10 to 90 split between crypto and fiat, or 20 to 80, it'd be 50-50. And that's really the catalyst that started Entendre. And yeah, so that I'll stop there, but that's a little bit about myself and why it's led me to the path that I'm on today. But yeah, I've been in the fintech space for the last 10 years essentially.
I love this. Okay, you are like my people. Coming at this from a pure operational efficiency, there has to be a better way. Why does this take so long? There's so many steps, there's so many clicks. Yeah, I mean, you're really speaking my language. And I love what you said about just having proper financial hygiene, because I mean, this is the startup conundrum 101, right? Every startup, they're kind of flying blind. They're just saying, okay, we've got 100K in the bank. We're spending 50K a month. Seems good. We've still got money. It's like, no, you have 2 months. And it's just a lot of people just aren't really trained to think about that too. So I'm curious, like talking about like Entendre and getting started, when you were going through that startup phase yourself, what was that like for you? Or did you learn anything early on? That might be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have worked at the companies I worked on previous to Entendre, because I'm pretty callous. The things that I saw, Ash, you were alluding to it at WeWork, like, was it crazy? Like Facebook, year one or whatever. Yeah, you kind of just get desensitized to a lot of like the craziness, and doing it at a broad scale across 20, 30 different markets and 5 or 6 different business units, and trying to pass audits and go public. And, it's like, you're a young person in your career, and if you've seen it all, in your first real gig outside of your first job, like you're pretty much desensitized. And, Entendre is very, we raised in the bear market, we raised in a very tough funding environment, but we didn't really care, because we knew what we were building was ultimately going to be necessary. And everyone talks about trying to, onboard the next billion users to crypto. You're not going to do that without institutions and large businesses being able to also get onboarded. And when they have to talk to their finance team and say, well, I'm an ambitious payments product manager, and I want to, start accepting stable coins. Well, who's the accountant who's going to have to do all that manual work and log into Coinbase and export millions of transactions and try to understand the difference between staking and swapping or bridging, so that's all the different, those are just like, that's just scratching the surface, right? No one's really thinking about normalizing the blockchain for businesses, right? Everyone's just kind of trying to improve transaction speed or cost efficiency, or making it easy for consumers to, abstract the complexity away from a consumer. But how are we abstracting the complexity away from businesses? And no one's really been on the forefront of that or cares to do that, because it's not very sexy. But I think that's why, I'm very grateful to be in this position, because I think, to me, it's a very sexy problem to solve. And if it's solved well and it scales infinitely, you have a digital blockchain ecosystem that trillions of dollars is transacting on, that could just be simply fully accounted for every month, hassle-free. And then you get some pretty interesting results from a business outcome perspective.
Speaking of successes then, can you give us an example of maybe what one of your customers was doing before they started working with you, and, a success story? Would love to hear.
Yeah, a couple big ones. Over $1 billion in crypto volume was automated. That's across tens of thousands of transactions for one of our options trading protocol customers. And we did it in record time so that they can pass their IFRS audits. And something that's unique to Entendre is we essentially structured this like an enterprise grade ERP system, even if it's accessible to startups. You don't have to sign a $2-3 million contract with, a 6-month implementation timeline. You just sign up, add your wallets, and it does a lot of the work, heavy lifting for you with AI. But but yeah, we were able to get both their Cyprus entities to pass their first IFRS audits, which what they were doing before was just manual spreadsheets, and they had a pretty anxious time figuring out how they were going to get past these audits. But we were able to fully get them onboarded, fully automated, 2 years worth of financials across both their entities, delivered to the auditor just from the exports of our platform and the reporting from our platform. And that's something I think was probably one of our earliest successes. We launched in May. It's actually been a year since we launched, and so it hasn't even been that much time, but we've been growing exponentially, and that's just one of the few examples. Another one is just how fast it takes to implement customers. I think one of the daunting things about back office tooling is the change management. Because of AI's, the use cases that AI has now unlocked for us, we're able to go back a couple years and completely get you caught up, in Entendre, which traditionally would have taken a ton of human capital to get right when you're switching from one, ERP or accounting solution to another. And the beauty of it is it's the combination of AI and crypto and blockchain. Everyone's looking at Ethereum, for example, regardless of its expense or income or a liability or assets, right? Everyone's looking at the same underlying set of transactions. And so it's not like this big fragmented mess in fiat where, okay, well, we got to go integrate with Wells Fargo, and then we have to go to your AP tool, and then we got to integrate with Amex for your corporate cards. And it just becomes like this unruly thing over time. But at the end of the day, these blockchains have at least centralized the rails in which activity is done on. And so if you support the chain, you support all the different transaction types that could come along with it.
So I guess like if it seems like you've basically built a product that was during that chaotic period of like working at Cloud Kitchen. I think Cloud Kitchen was also another Newman project, right? Or was it Kalanick project? I forget which one.
Yeah, Kalanick. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So very interesting thread of entrepreneurs that, and teams you've worked for, right?
I was like 2 for 2 for sure on that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fantastic, right? Because I always think that like being a founder myself with wins and losses, like I always think that these chaotic environments are like really the places where you're like, oh fuck, like this is a problem. And like it's a problem no matter where you are. You could be at 0 to 1 or 1 to 100, but it's still a clusterfuck, guys. So like building something that's a tool for yourself is pretty awesome, right? That's 101. That checks that box. Like my curiosity now is that you mentioned that you're using AI to optimize like how to aggregate this information. And since, chains are essentially public, this is fantastic for you to like gather all this data and then create these reports then. Like, are you building all the ML tooling in-house? Are you kind of like having like a third-party plugin? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we are a very lean, capital-efficient team. We're only 5 people, and we are supporting essentially, let's just say for every employee we have like 3 or 4x the customers, right? Like, so it's and this is all doable and possible because of AI, and we are using the best language models for a specific use case, right? And I'll get a little bit nerdy here, but for, parsing JSON and function calling, okay, we're going to use Grok and Llama. For anything that's like a workflow, okay, we're going to leverage OpenAI's Assistance API, right? And so we have like a very blended strategy because we also don't want to be vendor locked into any single LLM. It's a very competitive space, and LLMs are now becoming essentially open source software at this point, right? And what we need to be better at doing is then fine tuning it to our use case. The moat is not the LLM, it's what your product offers alongside of the LLM. And accounting software is extremely sticky. because if your customer is satisfied and loves you, they're never going to look to move off of you in the future. The LTVs of these contracts are 2, 3, 5 years. When we think about like when we close a customer, it's like this is going to be a customer for the next half decade at least. And it's really our bag to fumble if someone wants to leave. Another win, Megan, just as a heads up, we have 100% customer retention. And that's after a year of being publicly, marketing the platform. We actually went to market in record time. We raised our round July, August 2022, and then we exited stealth May 2023. We got our first several customers like late Q4 2022, so December, early Jan of 2023. So, we've processed multiple renewals now. And yeah, we haven't lost a customer since. So, that's not something, it's like we're very happy about that metric, but also we can't sleep at night. That's how paranoid we are. We want to keep it that way forever. And so we're, just AI is going to allow us to do that because the model changes. Instead of what some of our competitors do, where they might have maybe 10, 15 solutions engineers and a huge customer support or customer success function, we can keep it very small and lean and build personal relationships with our customers because we're not spending every waking minute trying to fix issues, right? We can quickly unblock you. We can quickly iterate on the feedback because we have agents, accounting agents, essentially doing it for us. And so this is like a very new thing, but it also is necessary for crypto because of how fast crypto moves. So a lot of these legacy subledgers, right, we're in a world where LLMs are not, easily accessible, and they built very opinionated software based on their capabilities. That's going to be very hard for them to dig themselves out of. But we have taken a very fresh approach and built something very flexible and modular that it can support any type of crypto business or any type of regular business that may want to transact in crypto. And so that's kind of, hopefully that answers your question, Ash.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I find it really interesting, this idea about tuning ML models, right? And like you said, there's like, you can go to Hugging Face and there's like 50,000 like models, right? There's 50,000 data sets, right? But like now you're getting this proprietary feed of data that just reinforcement learns your agents to basically be better at accounting, which, if you're talking about financial hygiene, you're going from me and like in day 365, it's probably like God level, like better, like it is a clean room level kind of deployment.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you a small example. Like we started labeling smart contracts to say, oh, this is like the Arbitrum Nova bridge or the ZK bridge to Polygon or whatever the bridge names are, or, oh, this is a Uniswap V3 contract, right? And when you see this, okay, you kind of know it's a swap or you kind of know it's a bridge, right? Or if you see two internal wallets but that belong to the same legal entity in Entendre, you know that this is an internal transfer of funds, right? And so like these are the type of like use cases that we take your business structure and your business logic, and we also take just the fundamental blockchain transaction logic, combine the two together, and we can cover your business specific transactions and your blockchain specific transactions. And this is how you get a very, very high degree of success in automation.
Wow. So you're like crossing over into like Dune analytics in a way of aggregating all this data for a chain. But at the same time, I'm guessing since you're going to a chain, you can also go from super wide to super myopic to be like, hey, I can just do this for a singular user. So I guess it's like personalized accounting software, like in the near future for Entendre.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the funny thing about that is we are strictly B2B. And the reason being is because with consumers, you are effectively just at the end of each year trying to understand your gains and losses, and that's it, right? And that is a very different challenge than trying to understand what's your crypto balance sheet and income statement. And what are you accruing for in terms of DeFi and yield? And, like, how are you getting a very accurate financial picture every month end for your management team and investors, right? if you're a consumer and you're, doing some degenerate stuff on DeFi, you don't even need to report that or know how much you're earning while your assets are locked up, because until you pull that out, it doesn't really matter. But for a controller, it will matter. I need to know because I just put in 3 million USDC in this pool that's supposed to be giving me 5%. So I need to know each month how much I'm actually earning, right? So like it's like a very different challenge. And I think also, again, a lot of platforms in the space that are trying to build back office solutions for crypto had a very, again, opinionated view on like what's important. And a lot of them actually started with tax for businesses and slowly realized we can't actually do anything tax related for businesses unless we have the accounting, right? And so again, this is like another path that ultimately Entendre can help solve for businesses once we get your books right. And that's the priority.
No, it's super important too. And then it's just maintaining GAAP compliance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're fundraising at all, like you have to attest that your books that you've provided are GAAP compliant. Well, how can you do that unless you're accruing within the time period? So yeah, totally understand and agree that that's super important, which leads me to a question. We've talked about AI and Web3. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about how do we regulate these things? What does that mean? I know a lot of other companies might have pulled out of the US entirely just because of the environment or the unknown and not really willingness to wait around and see where the hammer drops. So you're kind of sitting at this intersection where you've got these two, not one, but two industries that are kind of in that hotbed. So I'm super curious what your thoughts are on risk management for Entendre and yourself is like as it comes to this unknown regulatory environment.
We're very lucky to be kind of like the picks and shovels aspect of crypto right now. So we are, we are a read-only crypto company. So it's not like we will be impacted by potentially any regulatory passing of like legislation as it relates to crypto. I think regulation is probably going to help make the case for Entendre internally for teams, because again, like despite all the FOMO or the FUD that's happening of with what's happening with the SEC and other regulatory bodies, and also it's funny just seeing kind of like the presidential contrast of the two campaigns between crypto. At the end of the day, like I think the U.S. always eventually sides with technology and innovation. I think regulation is needed. I hope it's done in a way that doesn't just only benefit Coinbase, right? Because that's also kind of like the downside of regulation. The big players are the ones who benefit because the barrier of entry then like is harder and it increases. But ultimately, if Entendre is around and successful and can help people navigate that, then great. And that's not going to happen with the existing solutions today. They're just not equipped to do it at the level that we do.
I gotta ask, are you doing any, is Entendre doing any meme-fi, social-fi kind of like on the tail end of the spectrum kind of accounting for any of these protocols?
There's definitely a few, and they're very, it's definitely causing a lot of grief as it comes like from just like like some of these tokens have like very low liquidity like pairs, which like can affect pricing. And like obviously when people are obviously minting these new tokens and and this is why we also partner with so many amazing companies. So we partner with token investing and token equity platforms. So like we can again automate the equity and assets on your balance sheet, and as tokens are streaming, investing to investors or employees, like we can account for that type of stuff as well, because a lot of these smart contracts are extremely sophisticated, and what happens within them, that's just like a full-time, that could be someone's startup full-time, just trying to figure, like just like targeting specific smart contracts and pulling out the metadata from them. But we've essentially are the crypto GL. So everyone wants to actually give us the data because we're kind of the final stop. And so we partner with more than just, equity token investing startups. We've partnered with Rain Cards for corporate card and on-chain collateral accounting. We've partnered with Actual and Loop for accounts payable and accounts receivable accounting on chain. We've partnered with Maple Finance to automate the lending and borrowing of their institutional customers. So, like, again, everything you do on chain needs a corresponding accounting treatment or accounting entry, and that's kind of why it's important that we took like this general ledger approach of like, hey, we're going to be the inputs for everything, and we're going to start taking more and more of the story for you because of like our ability to automate things so quickly.
So you're telling me like a politicized startup who's doing Trump and Biden or Zin, and they're launching an actual prototype, and they're like, holy shit, we need to fucking figure out all our vesting for our team, and then our airdrop and everything like that, could plug into something like Entendre and be like, Kareem, we need to figure this shit out, bro. Because we need to go back to like doing our base shit on like Politify or ZinFi, right? And basically you would help solve that whole like Gordian knot of like accounting software and like how this data should be managed if they do want to raise, or they're even just internally trying to figure out like what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll make a bold claim here. We were the first crypto native balance sheet, P&L, and trial balance for customers. And when I mean that, I mean because, and I don't mean like a P&L just from calculating the transaction amounts. I mean from an accounting standpoint, meaning the balances you would see in Entendre were generated from the double entry journals that it recorded. And so that is a very different trial balance sheet income statement when you actually are the system of record of the accounting. That might be, I mean, that might not be the case now. I don't keep up with, product developments of competitors as much as I probably should be, but we were essentially the only one offering that for a very long time. And we've been told this by accounting partners and customers. So, you're totally right, Ash. Like that's something that, any team, whether it's degenerate or has utility, needs. And that's what Web2 companies need if they are going to start diving into this as a new vertical or revenue stream.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, it is kind of funny and hilarious to see this new wave of clients that'll be on your book, and your VCs will be like, bro, why the fuck are you basically giving services to Bowden and TrumpFi, and Brett Token and all these projects that are probably going to try and financialize and create their own ecosystems, which is interesting to think that these could be your clients. I mean, they're jokes, but at the end of the day, there's real products and real problems that are being solved. And, forget the left curve. You really are serving a right curve, like business and operations kind of thing. So,
yeah, totally. I mean, anything that happens on chain from a business standpoint, if you're a registered entity, I mean, it's got to hit some type of bookkeeping somewhere. So you're either going to do it manually or you're going to use a tool. And if you want to be efficient, you're going to look at the best solution for your business. And that's usually when we win. It's funny though, because accounting is one of those industries where time in the market does help. And since we are relatively the newer player, obviously there is skepticism and there is, pushback, and there's relationships that were established in the years before we existed. And so that's something that I think founders should be wary of. You need to, at the end of the day, make the right decision for your business, separate from what maybe your accountant might be comfortable with, right? Who's very type A and wants to do things the way that they know how to do things, right? You're going to have to feel potentially some short-term pain of like learning a new tool for like the long-term, long tail, just like peace of mind and automation. And that's like obviously something that we're working on. And we have over like 8-9 accounting partnerships now with some of the most reputable accounting firms, due solely off of merit of our tool and platform. And when we would walk into these rooms and show them what it's capable of, it was essentially undeniable. So yeah.
It makes sense too, because someone's accounts payable is another person's accounts receivable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole idea. So It's like
Totally.
I can see like as you grow that you'll be able to even further automate that if you have, if you have clients that are saying on both sides of the same transaction, then it's probably even more efficient for everybody. It's like, which leads me to wonder what are you working on from a roadmap perspective, or I know you're building, you're doing a lot of things fast, you've had a lot of growth. So
Yeah.
what's the next like short and medium phase of your product development?
Yeah. So the next set of priorities for us is automating the implementation process completely, so that anyone, regardless of existing solution or no solution, can come in, use the tool, try it themselves without even having to talk to our team. Because our plans to grow the team are non-existent. We want to stay as small as we can and really utilize the tooling made available to us with these really innovative AI companies. But ultimately, like, we want to long tail be the accountant of all of your digital assets. And that's, we've already built the subledger, and now we're picking away at the subledger where human input is needed. And slowly over time, if Entendre executes on its vision, there won't even be a UI for Entendre. It'll just be this amorphous blob that you talk to, and it's your accountant. So, that's my long tail vision. And if it's not us who does it, someone at some point in the future will do it. And so we're going hard to be that team that solves this. And there's not many teams that have the accounting focus, but also the product execution that we have. Yeah, we're ex Hulu, we're ex Coinbase, we're ex Amazon, Workday. So I mean, we have a lot of we've seen a lot of things at scale, and it's very hard to find really good product people to build back office tooling, but we got lightning in a bottle. And so I'm very grateful for the team we've built.
Yeah,
I never.
that's too, because you don't get credit for the things you do one time, right? And that like manual onboarding, that's still taking away from someone's
Yeah.
recurring activities. So I love that. I think the self onboarding, and if you can crack that nut, then that also becomes your sales tool, right?
Yeah, the accounting system that onboards itself is like the slogan we're going with. Yeah.
I never thought that we would be like Skynet comes in the form of accounting software. But like this is the era that it's happening. I guess we're getting the first fucking breaking news on the ATX Now podcast. In the
Yeah.
future, they'll reference it back to be like, "This is where it happened, guys."
Yeah, this is what started it all.
No,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
brilliant. That is a
yeah,
smart way to like leverage these tools so that it minimizes the number of like human like flesh and body kind of like endpoints, and it creates this like hyper efficient cycle, right? Like that's
yeah.
smart.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, what's interesting, and this is just my personal opinion, having built accounting shit for 10 years. Look, at the end of the day, everyone wants to build the new back office, the CFO suite, and help the CFO. But if you don't have the Lego blocks, which is the accounting, you're never going to actually build something that a CFO can hang their hat on and say, yeah, I don't even need to talk to an accountant, or I don't need to audit this, with auditors multiple times over, or need to reconcile, have my FP&A guys and my financial analysts double check and have all the support before we submit these financials. Because yeah, if it's all on autopilot, I mean, you've built the foundation, and then maybe in the future your CFO is just an AI. So you're never going to get to that point if there needs to be humans in the loop and built and going back and trying to fix these like Lego blocks.
I know we've talked a lot about the awesome things and things that have gone well. What about lessons learned or things that haven't gone quite according to plan?
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, it's when when traction picks up and things, I mean, like, we are stretched extremely thin, and so the learnings every day are like, manage expectations, don't overcommit, slow down to speed up, right? These are all like things that we just keep getting reminded on a day-to-day basis, that we need to stick to our principles and stick to our values and think about how we can prioritize the most important things. It's a constant exercise that we have to go through. And I think for us, like we're coming up on 2 years of the company existing, right? And it's just been like a great experience to see how things have grown. But I also think, we have to build things in a way that's going to allow us to exist for the next 2 years and continue the work that we're doing. So, this is like where every day we get, how are we investing our time? Where is our time going? And, even with, I've mentioned some of the lessons like kind of sprinkled in through the podcast, but like just the way that this industry works and how, the deal's never done until the money's in the bank. And that's, we've lost some amazing logos because of like gaps in these relationships, right? The internal team's ready, contract signed, and accountants scare them off, right? And it's something we have to reconcile, right? Like, how do we show that, yes, like this is a new tool, it's a new player, it's something that, you want to know will be around for another 2, 3, 5 years. But it's not as like scary as you think. And, how do we avoid that kind of misconception? Because we're not just another subledger, and it's a very crowded market that we're playing in. So for us to get as far as we did in such a short amount of time proves that we're in a pretty weak market and that it's kind of up for grabs. So yeah, that's just a little bit of like the push and pull, the tug of war that we're facing as a team.
Yeah, I gotta ask the question, right? Because it's like, there's so many of us, like as Megan said, like we're all in these different phases of our journey, right? Like we're all like, so many of us are, well, some of us are still in traditional like roles in Web2 or in finance, and then they're transitioning into crypto, or team first getting their jobs, or first time founders, or running hedge funds and VCs. But it's like, I gotta ask, like, what is the best advice that you would give to be like transitioning from WeWork to Cloud Kitchen to this? Like, you've kind of gone through these chaotic environments, and startups are like chaotic as fuck, right? And crypto startups are super chaotic. So like,
Yeah.
what's the big thing where it's like, bro, if you leave with one fucking thing, you need to like just know this, so that like you get your mind and like your spirit ready for like this gauntlet that it is for a crypto startup.
Yeah. I think uh, what's helped me the most is discipline, right? People always want to find motivation, and motivation's great, right? Um, Being motivated because you love crypto, or being motivated because you love money, or being motivated because you love startups is a great thing to have. But don't go into this journey thinking that you're going to have any type of positive outcome. Just do the things you need to do every single day, and do them well, and do them with speed, and just wait for the tides to turn in your favor. Because it's you go through dry spells, man. Like, you could be the best product in the market and not have a customer this month, not close a single customer, right? Or revenue is flat, or whatever it might be, or the platform isn't scaling, or you can't get this feature out. It doesn't really matter. It will happen if you stick to it and are consistent and you're disciplined. Don't go into a startup with any expectations that you will get some sort of relief quickly. And just know that like the only way this fails is if you give up, and you shouldn't give up until literally your bank balance hits zero. So it's not over till it's over. And if you stay consistent, you will get out what you put in.
I can't think of a better kind of like takeaway, because that's so akin to accounting, I guess. Be
Yeah.
fucking consistent.
Yeah.
Don't drop the fucking ball. I know
Yeah.
you hate doing it, but like it's about doing the shit that you don't like, right?
Yeah.
It seems like
Yeah.
accounting is the big takeaway here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, we've talked to some really awesome like DeFi protocols, and and like just like Web3 finance platforms that millions of people use. And a lot of the times it's like, oh, like what about institutions and businesses? How can they interact with your tool? Like, oh, like they do it. I'm like, yeah, but like, how are they accounting for it? And are these people like actually asking for this? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I mean, they brought it up, but it's not important. Like they're already, putting in 1 million, 10 million of liquidity in here. It's like, okay, yeah, but like, how much more could you have grown, or how much more could you have retained that liquidity if you had some sort of offering to automate this for them on the back end? And it's amazing how a lot of founders like don't really know the importance of this stuff. And they can be some of the most, some of the biggest names in tech don't care about accounting. And it's like, well, this is what ultimately came back to bite you. So it's funny. And it's like, I think the path forward for crypto is that this type of tech exists, and it's massively adopted by institutions and businesses, and it's promoted by everyone in the industry so that they're doing things the right way.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I failed accounting like 4 times during college, like in a row. I set a precedent. They're like, I don't even know how you're doing it. The professor was even impressed. But I gotta say it now, I feel like, okay, I failed it on purpose, because now I can just plug into Entendre and be like, I don't have to fucking worry about this shit anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't have a CPA by any means, but like customers treat me like their accountant. And I'm like, look, I'm not a CPA, but it's this, you debit assets, you credit equity, or you debit expense, you credit, you credit your clearing account, whatever it is that, they're asking me about. I've seen it in so many ways and levels that like, I'm actually giving out like, hey, like I'm caveating, I'm not your CPA, but this entry looks completely wrong. And like just explaining it to them. But yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Megan?
Yeah, so as an ATX DAO partner, what's your ask to the community?
My ask is, let us know who you are, and let's chat, and let's stay in touch, and let's help each other out. I think like community partnerships is something that our team personally needs to improve on, and being a part of a community and getting our name out there. It's like extremely hard in crypto, where everyone's anonymous and everyone's decentralized, and we all just get together at conferences. It's like, okay, like let's also maintain a relationship outside of events. So yeah, I mean, please hit us up, hit me up. I'm always down to chat, grab coffee. We're based out of New York City. Anyone in the ATX DAO partnership network that's in New York, even if you're just visiting, like shoot us a message or a call, and let's hang out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that me and Megan need to get an excuse to go up to New York and be like, hey, it's a business deal. We have to go have this coffee here, and at least we get a chance to like hang out with someone cool, and then like talk shop, which is
and then
dope.
we can expense it, on the books. So
and use Entendre to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's coming full circle.
Cool.
See, this is what happens when there's 2 people who actually know what's happening with accounting, and then there's someone like me who's like, let's just build it, like see what the fuck happens, guys.
But see, we need it all to work. Like it's all important.
Yeah, well, we're ready for you guys whenever. Hopefully not. Hopefully we don't let it age too long, or else it's going to be a little bit of a tougher implementation typically. But we've done it before, so.
Oh yeah. I just think it'll be hilarious if like, because we're going through that process right now of like going to market in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And literally, we keep joking about what our token should be and like what our VCs will have to list on their cap table, because and we are joking about the fact that our token is going to be called Furry Dick. I'm sorry, Megan, but it's just like a long inside joke from college days. So I'm like, yo, one of our investors is a BlackRock venture partner, so he has to write this memo, like literally to like the people at BlackRock, and he's like, I'm allocated to this much, and this is Furry Dick, and this is what these guys are doing. And it'd be hilarious to see that when we get to the level where we need accounting to be properly done, you're gonna be like, I'm pretty sure these guys take the cake for the most inappropriate ones that we should probably not put on our website, to be like, hey, we also are accountants for Furry Dick token too. So
I'll say this. Hey. I think it would actually help us more than you think than hurt us. Yeah.
Isn't it hilarious that like we're going in an industry where the most outlier style kind of messaging and narratives are what's like on the top layer. And then in the bottom layer, it's all these real tech stacks, real operations. There's real people. There's smart people keeping us all in line, much like
Yeah.
you guys. And then there's, people who are actually retarded, like sending some of this stuff. And they're like, guys, it actually, if you look past it, it makes a lot of sense. So keeping us on the level.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would just say like, it's funny. It's hard to be the adult in the room or like the serious guy in like at the circus. Like, just give me my clown makeup now, and like just join the crew. But yeah, it's like
Well,
when you're the custodian of people's financial reports, like you got to be the serious one sometimes. So yeah.
No, that it's a dirty job if someone's got to do it, and I guess it's up to you two to basically get that done for the DAO and for Entendre and the world by extension. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the world. No pressure.
Yeah, hey. I mean, at some point you're just gonna get to that point. Like we're super distributed, right? So you're already tackling the world. You just don't realize it yet.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining. We're super excited to have you as part of the partner network, and really excited just to get to know you more and be working together. And would love to welcome you in Austin sometime. We'll take you out for some really good tacos, of course.
Absolutely.